Welcome back to the channel, and today what are we talking about? We're talking about compression, the Byrdhouse compressor in particular. Now, I don't have a fancy song or anything for you to start this off because I do want to briefly talk about compression. When I make these demos, I try to eliminate all the compression I can, right? Here's the way I think about it. If I'm using a fuzz pedal, that fuzz is already compressing. If I'm cooking this amp up, it's going to be compressing a little bit, right? And then if we go into any, sort of YouTube thing, and then your iPhone and how all the playback works, there's already a lot of compression being added. So in this studio, I try to minimize it, right? Jimmy Page once said in an interview, shit in, shit out. Okay? And I think that is such a great thing that musicians should apply to. What he meant by that was when Led Zeppelin recorded, they didn't use a lot of EQ and compression and everything. They did their setup with the microphones. So I have my 3 microphones in. From when I play and record, the sound comes out of the amp, hits the microphones, I blend them in the DAW to get a good sound, and then it goes right out to the video editing software because I don't want to add a lot of compression. I want you to try to hear as accurately as you can. Whether it's a preferred sound or a polished sound, it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be what the amp is sounding like with that pedal. With that being said, I'm going to do my best to demonstrate a compressor. Now, I think compression there's a lot of confusion on it because I feel like a lot of people don't quite understand how to use it, and I'm starting off doing a compressor pedal with a pedal that has no labels on it, but this one's very simple and very effective, and I really like it. So the Byrdhouse compressor is based on a Janglebox, and it's a really pretty straightforward circuit. This little toggle switch here is a 3-way toggle for tone, so it's normal, bright, and dark, and I'll show you guys that. Then this is the attack, which is how quick it compresses, and then this is the gain, which is makeup gain for, once you squash your signal, we gotta boost it back up so it's not, real low. So here's the build report section of the Byrdhouse compressor. Now, taking a look at this thing and looking at the schematic, it's basically a take on a Dynacomp, and I think it's a really good one. So to talk about what I did here, this is a bare enclosure, and I hand painted this little bird on there. And then this is one of the ones I still was doing epoxy pours on to keep it protected. And as you can see right here, it has a little where the epoxy didn't go on the metal. Stuff like that happens. But a pretty easy build. The drilling's not bad. I didn't want to put the nut on there because I didn't want to cover up that beautiful bird. And let's flip it over and take a look at the insides. There's nothing really crazy about this build. It is pretty simple. I have one of the 3-pole double throw foot switch boards on here, which just makes things a little bit easier when you're wiring. The one part that I thought was kind of interesting, or the one part that was kind of like a rare part, was this op amp. It is an NT-E996. Now, I had a hard time finding this online, but I found out that I have a electronic place by my house that sells these. So I was able to pick them up there. I was reading online that other people use the CA3080. So there's definitely substitutions out there for it. And it's not too hard of a build. We just got your 2 pots, input jacks, power jack, LED, and then all of the resistors. And I didn't socket any of them because I figured why not? Let's just run with it. Now, on the build docs, we have this trimmer, and no talking about what the trimmer actually does. So after doing a little digging and farting around, and a lot of times if I don't understand what these trimmers are, I will sit and play it, turn it, play, turn, and just go back and forth and see what I'm hearing. What this is doing is supposedly it helps balance, not supposedly, so it helps balance the transistors in the op amp. I didn't hear much of a difference going back and forth. It was really, really subtle. So I found when I just kept it a little bit turned, maybe if noon's here, I went to 11:45, 11:50. You know what I'm saying? And that seemed to work just fine. But it's a really great build. And again, for a compressor, I like that kind of squash that it does. It really sounds good. So let's get back to the sounds. To talk about how I like to use compression, I like to use it a couple different ways. There's kind of like the way I use it probably the most. So this is the normal setting, by the way. This is high. This is dark. I don't know if you can hear that through the amp because it is hissing. High. This is the bright side. Normal. Dark. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is show you here my clean sound. Now you kind of hear the bloom of the compression, and that's what I always feel like with compression. If we strum chords, it evens everything out, okay? And that is probably the main reason I use compression. I love using it on the back here, whatever these 2 and 4, or whatever the this is between these two pickups. That progression without the compressor, what's that's doing is just keeping everything nice and even and level, right? And that's where I use a lot of compression at. The other place I use it is when I do finger pick passages. It kind of helps everything stay real clear and together, okay? So now I'm going to go to these two guys. Alright, so now we're here on the more trebly side, and I'm going to kind of crank the attack up a little bit, so it's going to really compress, okay? And now without that, without the compressor, all of the low end's going to come through and be just as loud, whereas with the compressor, it's kind of making everything a really... The other way I like to use it, it's really heavy, and I like to go a little country music. Now I am not a great country music guitar player, but I certainly love that old stuff. There we go. I mean, it's a compressor. It's like overdrive for your clean signal. You know, it kind of makes everything, tightens things up, puts things, it's like the yoga pants of pedals. It's the yoga pants for your clean sound. There we go, guys. I'm ending on that. That's brilliant.